A biotech company claims they've brought back a species of wolf that went extinct over 12,000 years ago. The Dallas-based company says it's successfully revived the dire wolf. 3 wolf pups are living on a large fenced-off site at an undisclosed location. So let's bring in Sarah and Johanna. You may have heard Johanna laugh, and that's a bit of a spoiler alert about what we're about to hear from her in a moment. But first, let's talk about the dire wolf. Sarah, Game of Thrones fans might be, well, at least they recognize the species and might be excited by this news.
I was very excited by the news until it was pointed out to me that the dire wolf that was in Game of Thrones, the preferred pet of the Stark family, this magical creature that grew to the size of a small horse and was fiercely loyal and would attack anything that came after its owner, that in fact that's not what the actual dire wolf, this is the Game of Thrones version here, see how huge, and this is more likely what they believe that the dire wolf looked like. The dire wolf roamed North America, but this was like more than 12,000 years ago, so it's what they believe the dire wolf looked like. But you know, based on these pictures of this newly created dire wolf, it's still pretty cute, but it's not Game of Thrones level.
Well, it's absolutely cute. Now, here in newsrooms, we get news releases all the time from clever public relations people and their bosses, the companies. And here, the news releases say that this company in Texas has managed to revive this species, which has been extinct, basically, for thousands of years. As the resident scientist on the CBC News family, Johanna?
Yes, revive is an interesting word choice, but they did not recreate or reclone the dire wolves. But I will point out one of the puppies' names is Khaleesi.
See?
For Game of Thrones fans. Now, I've got to share you the press release from this bioscience company, Colossal. Warning, it's chaotic, but this is how they did it. Take a listen.
First, we extracted direwolf DNA from a 72,000-year-old skull, and then used that DNA to assemble and build out a reference genome. From there, we isolated the correct genes, engineered them into a gray wolf cell, and then cloned and implanted the nucleus to get the basis of a direwolf embryo.
Really cool.
Once the embryo divided, we implanted it into a surrogate, and voila, the direwolf was reborn.
There you go.
That is the first time I've seen and heard that video. The voiceover sounds like the beginning of like $6 Million Man, i.e., you know, cheesy 70s television. I mean, how much science is involved here?
So here's the thing. There is an incredible amount of science, and the scientific community is impressed in the gene editing that went into this creation, and that's what happened here. These scientists edited the genes of gray wolves to pinpoint what genes would make these wolves look and act like dire wolves. And they did that by analyzing the real DNA from dire wolves taken from the skull of a dire wolf. But they pinpointed the genes using DNA editing, which is very impressive. But ultimately, they did not clone or bring into existence the dire wolf. And that's why scientists are saying there is still an ethical question here. Why are we trying to recreate or re-edit the dire wolf? Do we have the habitat to maintain that? And why wouldn't we be using that money in research to try and keep existing animals as they are?
Yeah, so what do you think is next here?
They want to do the woolly mammoth. They want to do the ancient tiger, the saber-toothed tiger, dodo bird, basically all of the pop culture creatures. And I've got to show you a picture. They have attempted this with the woolly mouse. Oh. I mean, talk about cute. So they did the same procedure with mice. They took all of these genes that would make a mouse look more like a woolly mammoth. There's a lot of a publicity stunt here, though, but come on, that's adorable.
Some serious science fiction,
right?
Or not fiction.
I mean, yeah, there's this thin line between cute and disturbing. And I think it runs right down the middle of this woolly mouse.
It splices the DNA of this mouse. Yeah, now the company wants to actually recreate the woolly mammoth, one of the largest animals to roam tens of thousands of years ago, in the next couple of years. But again, the scientific community says there's ethics at question here. Even if they're not cloning the DNA from a woolly mammoth or a dire wolf, they're still editing the genes to create what would look like a woolly mammoth. Do we have the habitat to maintain a woolly mammoth population? Probably not.
Well, and it's sort of shades of Jurassic Park. And did anyone see how that movie ended?
You know what? I'm so not a movie guy. I haven't seen Jurassic Park.
Well, you should watch it.
It doesn't end well, I'll tell you that.
Okay. Anyway, this is all very interesting. So the word I heard this morning was this company saying they had de-extincted
Yes.
the dire wolf. Clearly, that's not the case.
I wouldn't say I would say revived the DNA editing of, not as flashy of a press release,
but more
that's what I would go
accurate.
with.
All right, thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.